Michelle, thanks for taking some time to speak to us. You were involved in that interesting discussion about the brand in Africa, and I think Foreign Minister Mushikawabo really added a very interesting perspective to that. But in terms of your work, we've heard a lot over the last few days about the importance of developing African industries, African businesses, African champions. What role is the brand going to play in that? For enterprises in Africa, what should they be thinking about in terms of brand and marketing, those sorts of issues, which I suspect are somewhere down on their priority list as they, work to become new enterprises?
Well, I think we can distinguish between individual brands emanating from African businesses and consumer brands as they become more well known around the world or across African markets, of course, and what might be more of a brand Africa, a sort of halo brand that can serve to support all of those other what we might call sub-brands. So I think if you look around the world, whether it's the way in which countries brand themselves or whether it's the way that products and services brand themselves, a trusted brand is a promise and it has values that people recognize, and a trusted brand is a great asset.
That idea of a halo brand, do you think that's something that should be developed or needs to be thought about, or is it something that just emerges as people read about Africa or learn about what's happening here? When you talk about a brand for this incredibly complex, diverse continent, is that something that actually can happen by design, or is it something that just emerges?
Well, I think the truth is Brand Africa already exists because it exists in the minds of people who take a view of what Africa means to them, what it represents. So the question as to whether or not something wants to be created and managed is the extent to which there is a sense that the vision of a new Africa is understood and shared by all the key stakeholders, and that there is a commitment to supporting that and working hard at it over time. So what we have seen around the world is that countries and places are beginning to spend much more time and effort on thinking about long-term branding and moving from tactical tourism campaigns to things that are more continuous, ongoing, long-term, investing in brands that have meaning to people in many different ways, not just tourism, but foreign direct investment, and obviously are authentic in terms of local people and how they view things as well.
I mean, I know you're not an African specialist, but it strikes me that that's a fairly daunting prospect when you talk about all the stakeholders need to kind of agree and share a common vision. Who do you speak to when you want to call Africa? Is an impossible question. So you're talking about many different national interests, many different players that might be involved in this. Can you really imagine a coordinated approach to that?
I think it is without doubt a serious undertaking because it would require a body of representatives coming together and working together on it. But we do see brands around the world being run globally, requiring significant vision and investment and hard work and maintenance and a long-term strategy and maintenance of the brand values, but we do see it being done. So the answer isn't that it can't be done, but it's the investment that is the issue. And if you look at the way in which some countries who are spending a lot of time on developing new types of branding and where they're bringing together the different ways in which a country is experienced by people who are living there but also travelling there, whether they are both tourists or people who may be business investors, many different ways that you have touch points with that brand. What we're seeing is a new type of focus on coordination between government ministries, whether it's, if you look at the UK, whether it would be UKTI working with the Foreign Office, etc. So the coordination involved is very significant, but as I say, there are practices that are established that can do that kind of work and support that kind of work. So it's the trade-off between the long-term ambition and what it could offer versus the ability to coordinate that and invest in that for the longer term.
Right. And can you think of examples of countries that have successfully transformed their national brand by that sort of concerted effort?
Yes, although actually some of the ones that spring to mind are certainly not on the scale of Africa
No,
or
no,
on
of course
continent.
not. Yeah.
Singapore, what a
Okay.
terrific and amazing job was done there and continues to be done on positioning Singapore in a very authentic way, but in a way that's been sustained over many years. And you also see in other places, you see national brands then support state brands. So I think Brand USA supported what you will then see is the halo effect that has across some of the states that then do all of their own advertising and branding and communications as well. And then, we also see examples where it's not necessarily working so well in a brand hierarchy and you get some dissonance. And very topically today, we could look at the European Union, and the brand values of the European Union as such sit very well with some European nations, perhaps less well, for instance, with British values. So that dissonance then becomes problematic. So it isn't easy, but when it works, it's very powerful.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.